Once you've finished building a feature, it can be useful to roll it out only to a subset of your users. The Microsoft Feature Management library allows for that using something called a targeting filter. Let's mash on that.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. In today's episode, we have a double purpose. First, we're going to talk about feature management, and then we're going to reminisce about the 1990s when Dilbert comics was still relevant.
Hey, this comic is from 2007, so it's not quite that old. But it's one that I always come back to often, where the boss is complaining about a button that's in the UI that it turns out he had explicitly asked for. But Dilbert, being the smart engineer that he is, had only actually put that in his copy. So we're going to look at how we can do that today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just a quick recap of the app that we had built. We had added this feature where we're displaying a list of recent posts on the main page. And we were experimenting with different ways that we could turn that feature on and off using the Microsoft Feature Management library. So we experimented with a percentage filter, which I think is the one I have turned on now, where it's available for like 50% of the requests that come through. So right now it's off. That's not there. Actually, maybe, oh, there it is. Now it's on. So it's there sometimes and not there other times. What I did here is I added the ability to log in. So now this is an app where we can actually log in. We have a few accounts created. There's Simon at example.com. Simon is my boss in this world.
What a strange world that must be.
It is indeed.
Dystopian.
Oh, did I forget how to log in?
Uh-oh, as your boss, I'm unimpressed.
Did I have forgotten your password?
Yep.
Okay, so when you log in, you're logged in as Simon, and you'll notice that I have this little link at the bottom that says Join Insider Program. We'll come back to that in a minute. But first, let's just take a look at what it takes to put this, well, first what this targeting filter is. So we're going to look at just bringing it in first into the app. So much like the other filters, you have to come in here to the startup and just add that feature filter to the feature management piece. And unfortunately, it's not here when I'm not getting the autocomplete for the targeting filter. And that's because this is actually still in preview. So we need to go in here to NuGet. And we're going to make sure that we have the checkbox here for include pre-release. And we're going to update to, where was my feature management library here? I might not see, there it is. So we're just going to upgrade to the 2.1 preview. Hopefully this actually gets released sometime soon here, but for now, just need to install that preview version. Now that resolves, the targeting filter is there. But how do we configure it? So if we look at app settings, right now I'm using that percentage filter, and the parameter for the percentage filter is just the value of what percentage of people I want to have it, or of requests coming in that I want it to be turned on. It's a little bit more complicated with targeting, what that parameter ends up being. And I actually pulled down the repo here of the feature management library so that we could take a look at that. So the settings, which is what we pass into that parameters piece, is an audience. So we're saying that we want the feature enabled for this audience. We define what that audience is. If we drill into that, the audience can be a subset of users. So that can be where you turn that feature on only for your boss and not for anybody else. Or you can do a group rollout. So this is, you might be familiar with this from things like, well, the Windows team, I suppose, does this. I believe Azure DevOps does this as well when they roll out features, but they have what they call staged or ring deployments. So there is a first ring that is maybe a subset of internal users that gets the feature immediately. And then there'll be the next ring that might include a certain percentage of people that are enrolled in an insider program, and so on. How did that happen? dragging Simon back onto the screen. He's been here all along, just on the wrong monitor. So the group rollout, what you do is you just give it a name. So the name of the group, this might be something like your insider group or ring 0 or ring 1. And then the percentage of people within that group that you would like that to have that feature. So it might be 100% of the people in that group, or you might do only 50% of the people in that group initially. And then if that looks like it's working well, then later on you bump it up to 100 and start rolling out to the rest of your groups.
So would that be consistent? Like if you had 20 people in that group and you said 50% of them should have it, would it always be the same 10 people?
It's always the same people. I'm not 100% certain that they have the percentage thing fully worked out.
Okay.
It didn't feel like it for me because they don't really know the size of your group is part of the issue. But it is always the same people. They're doing some interesting math when they go to calculate that. And then the last setting on the audience is just the default rollout percentage. So that's if it's not a user who has it or a group that has a specific setting, then what rollout percentage would you like to use? So let's take a look at pulling in some of that configuration, which I have in a handy dandy note over here. So what I would like to do is, of course, my boss is going to get this feature first. If he ends up being in a group where he's not getting it, he's going to be angry. So I'm going to make sure that Simon gets this feature all the time. So my parameters for the targeting filter are the audience is Simon. He's always going to get it. And then people who are in the insiders group, I would like 80% of those people to get it, and the default rollout percentage. So if you're not in those groups, you just don't get it. So that's the configuration for it, but there's a little bit more work we need to do here because we need to tell basically this targeting filter how do you get a username and how do you get a group name? How do you know what group a user belongs to? So to do that, we have to implement something called a iTargeting context accessor. So I'm going to just add an instance of, or a new class here called my targeting context accessor. And it will implement iTargeting context accessor, which I do have to spell correctly. And that's just an interface that's defined over in the feature management library. So this guy takes in a single method, or you need to implement a single method called getContext, where you return a targeting context. That targeting context has a user ID and groups. So this is where we're going to tell it basically for this request or for the current context. This is the name, the user ID, and these are the groups that this user belongs to. To do that, we're going to pull in our HTTP context accessor. That's just something that's built into Asp.Net Core, so we can get access to the current HTTP context from anywhere. And then I'm just going to copy and paste this code in because we don't need to watch me write it, but we can talk about it. So I just grab my current context, and then I create a new targeting context, the thing that we're returning. I set the user ID equal to the currently logged in user's name. If you're not logged in, that's just going to be blank. And then what I do is I check to see if you have a specific claim called the insider that tells me whether or not you're in the insiders group. Then I create an array, in this case, of strings that contains insiders, so then you'd know that you're in the insider group. So that's an implementation of a targeting context accessor that's able to pull things from the user's identity, basically. And what we need to do is just register that as a singleton so that the feature management library knows how to, or so that that targeting filter knows how to access it.
It seems like kind of boilerplatey code. Seems
a little
like
bit, yeah. So
might be useful for a NuGet package or something at some point in the future.
For sure. The the one thing that I think it would be pretty similar all the time for in the context of a web application is this identity name. Obviously, the user ID is probably always going to be coming from that.
Right.
But the idea of what groups you belong to, that could be different. So
Yeah, that's true.
you would need a way to configure that in still offer that flexibility. Okay, so I'm going to say targeting context accessor, which I am not spelling correctly. There we go. So I register that singleton, and now I believe that should all work. We should be able to target that single user. So if I'm still logged in as Simon, I would expect the feature to be turned on. However, this file did not compile. I had one too many closing braces. Okay, we're logged in as Simon, and we can see that the feature is enabled every time I go to the home page. If I log out, I would expect the home page to no longer have anything because I'm not logged in, there's no user ID, and I would default to that 0% with the default rollout percentage. Now if I log in as myself, I also don't get the feature. I'm not an insider yet. I don't have that insider claim set to true. So I could try joining the insider program. Now I'm a member of the insider program. I come here and unfortunately I didn't make the cut. I didn't make the 80% cut that got the feature. But we can try logging in as another user. These are accounts that I had created before. This person can join the insider program. I'm now a member of the insider program. And test@example.com did make the cut, and they do get the feature. And then it is consistent, so every time they come back, they do continue to get the feature, even if I were to close this and log back in.
And so they somehow managed to figure out who's part of a group and who's not, even though they're not saving it anywhere.
Yeah, so why don't we look at the
hashing.
way they're doing that?
I'm curious now, yeah. I'm betting that they hash your username and put you into a bucket.
Yeah. So what they do is they say username/featurename/group. That's their context ID, and then they call this isTargeted. And you're right, they do a hash here of that context ID, and then they do the math here to figure out if you're in that percentage that should get it or not.
Ooh. Boy, that looks like some code that could do some optimization. If you're
Still in preview.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like doing a SHA-256 on that is a bit of overkill, but
yeah. You might be right. One of the things that they do in their sample, they have an example of an HTTP context targeting accessor here, is that they do try and cache the result of it so that if you ask multiple times, at least it's not recalculating that hash.
Yeah, all right.
But that's only cached, I believe, for the request scope. So the next request you come in, it's still going to go and recalculate that hash again.
Interesting.
I mean, there's lots of opportunity.
In the grand scheme of things, this is probably the difference of 2 nanoseconds, but
probably, yeah. Depends on your server, I suppose. In the length of your user IDs, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I would guess so.
In the length of your feature name and your group name.
Yeah, so you probably shouldn't set your feature name to be the entire contents of the Bible.
Probably not. I've seen passwords that were close to that. So that's targeting the targeting filter that's built into the feature management library. I think it's pretty neat. I haven't had a chance to use it like in a real world setting, but it does seem like it would be pretty useful for exactly that type of scenario where you kind of want to, so rolling out features maybe to your internal users first, and then slowly rolling it out to your external users as you start to get telemetry and to see if things are working properly and as expected.
Yeah, it's great. All right, well, I'm super impressed. I would definitely look to use this whenever the opportunity arose. And I'm looking forward to wherever this series takes us next. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Remember to like, comment, and share, and we'll see everybody on the next episode of the ASP.NET Monsters. Bye.
Bye.